Thank you, Father. Thank you for this moment. Thank you for bringing us back together to continue on with the study of the book of Jubilees. As we study this word, Father, we pray that your Spirit will guide us for the understanding of what you like us to get from the information that we are reading. We thank you for all you've done. We bless your holy name. And thank you for bringing us together. Pray for our brothers and sisters that are together online with us and the ones that are not with us that will listen to this later. Please help us learn from what it is that you like to learn from by these studies. We bless your holy name. I pray this prayer in the name of the Messiah, so be it. Okay, so we are going to start Jubilees 13.
Yeah, I think Nicole is back.
Okay.
Does she want you to read? Nicole, are you ready?
If she can, I'm still in the car.
Okay.
All right, I'll read. Abram went from Haran and took his wife Sarai and Lot, the son of his brother Haran, to the land of Canaan. He came to Assur. He walked as far as Shechem and settled near a tall oak tree. He saw that the land from the entrance of Hamath to the tall oak was very pleasant. Then the Most High said to him, "To you and your descendants I will give this land." He built an altar there and offered on it a sacrifice to the Most High who had appeared to him. Verse 5, he departed from there toward the mountain of Bethel, that is toward the sea, with eye toward the east, and pitched his tent there. He saw that the land was spacious and most excellent, and that everything was growing on it: vines, fig trees, pomegranates, oak trees, holm oaks, terebinths, olive trees, cedars, cypresses, incense trees, and all kinds of wild trees. And there was water on the mountain. Then he blessed the Most High who had led him from Ur of the Chaldees and brought him to this mountain. During the first year, in the seventh week, on the first of the month in which he had initially built the altar on this mountain, he called on the name of the Most High. You, my Wa, are the eternal Wa. He offered to the Most High sacrifice on the altar so that he will be with him and not abandon him throughout his entire lifetime. Verse 10, he departed from there and went toward the south. When he reached Hebron, Hebron was built at that time. He stayed there for 2 years. Then he went to the southern territory as far as Bala. There was a famine in the land, so Abram went to Egypt in the third year of the week. He lived in Egypt for 5 years before his wife was taken from him by force. Egyptian Tanna was built at that time, 7 years after Hebron. When Pharaoh took Abram's wife Sarai by force for himself, the Most High punished Pharaoh and his household very severely because of Abram's wife Sarai. Now, Abram had an extremely large amount of property: sheep, cattle, donkeys, horses, camels, male and female servants, silver, and a lot of gold. Lot, his brother's son, also had property. Pharaoh returned Abram's wife Sarai and expelled him from the land of Egypt. He went to the place where he had first pitched his tent, at the location of the altar, with Ai on the east and Bethel on the west. He blessed the Most High Wa, who had brought him back safely. Verse 16. During this first Jubilee, in the third year of the first week, he returned to this place. He offered a sacrifice on it and called on the Most High's name. You, Yahweh, Most High Wa, are my Wa forever and ever. In the fourth year of this week, Lot separated from him. Lot settled in Sodom. Now the people of Sodom were very sinful. He was brokenhearted that his brother's son had separated from him, for he had no children. In that year, when Lot was taken captive, the Most High spoke to Abram after Lot had separated from him in the 4th year of this week and said to him, "Look up from the place where you have been living toward the north, the south, the west, and the east, because all the land that you see I will give to you and your descendants forever. I'll make your descendants like the sands of the sea. Even if a man can count the sands of the earth, your descendants will still not be counted. Get up and walk through its length and its width. Look at everything, because I will give it to your descendants." Then Abram went to Hebron and lived there. Verse 22. In this year, Chedorlaomer the king of Elam, Amraphel the king of Shinar, Arioch the king of Salasar, and Tegar the king of the nation came and killed the king of Gomorrah, while the king of Sodom fled. Many people fell with wounds in the valley of Sodom in the Salt Sea. They took captive Sodom, Adamah, and Zeboim. They also took Lot, the son of Abram's brother, captive, and all his possessions. He went as far as Dan. One who had escaped came and told Abram that the son of his brother had been taken captive. When he had armed his household servants, Abram went up and killed Chedorlaomer. Upon returning, he took a tithe of everything and gave it to Melchizedek. This tithe was for Abram and his descendants, the tithe of the first fruit for the Most High. Yahweh made it an eternal ordinance that this should give it to the priests who serve before him, for them to possess it forever. This law was no temporal limit, because he has ordained it for history of eternity, to give a tenth of everything to the Most High, of seed, the vine, oil, cattle, and sheep. He has given it to the priests to eat and to drink joyfully before him. Verse 28. When the king of Sodom came up to him, he knelt before him and said, "Our Lord Abram, kindly give us the people whom you rescued, but their booty is to be yours." Abram said to him, "I lift my hands to the Most High to show that I will not take anything of yours, not a thread or sandal tongues, so that you may not say, I have made Abram's rich, accepting only what the young men have eaten and the share of the men who went with me. Onan, Eshcol, and Mamre, this will take their share." The word of Wah, blessed be Wah. All right. Sister Nicole.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Oh, let's see.
Curious what you're laughing at, Sister Nicole. I'm curious, are you
Because
laughing at, huh?
I'm just sitting here listening and listening and listening because I can't see, and I didn't
Oh,
realize it
okay.
was finished.
Oh, I thought you was laughing at verse 28 where they said, "But let the booty be thine."
Real.
That
I
was
know
difficult
Sister
for me to
Mavis
read.
almost laughed.
Oh man, I guess. Okay, I'm sorry. Let's see. I'm actually pulled over in
What
Walmart
a way to
parking lot
start a
right now.
morning, I tell you.
Oh
Sister
man.
Nicole, if you are driving, you can continue driving. I can go, okay?
Yeah, you can leave. That'd be perfect, and I'll just throw in my comments.
Okay, sure. Okay. All right. So, I mean, we've read it. Anything that stands out, people?
Um, excuse me. There's quite a bit in here. Yeah, I'll hold off.
I
It's
mean, we can.
interesting how it has. Of course, it has more detail than. That's what I think that this book goes along with. the other, 66 or the Torah, I would say, because I'm about to start to think that what we did not get in Genesis, this was supposed to fill it in anyway. That is my part of it, because you're getting these details in here, and I think that this was probably meant to be a part of that, and then you wouldn't have gaps in some of the information that we have. That's it for now.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe that this book really fills in the gap for us, working along with Genesis. You're absolutely right. Sister Nicole?
I think I just wanted to kind of highlight how in the beginning of the chapter, when Abram entered Canaan and the Most High promised the land to him, and notice the first thing that Abram did, like, and you see this kind of throughout scripture when you look at those who the Most High considered righteous, like Jacob, and I think it was Joshua. They always they would go and then they always build these altars to the Most High. And I just find it interesting that he hadn't even, the Most High doesn't even really fulfill yet he make them a promise. They get to a place and then he make them a promise, and then they build these altars, and these altars was is basically symbolizes worship, their worship for him. And it's funny to me, and it's something that I feel like we can take and we can use today, is that the worship was before the promise was fulfilled. He just promised it. It's not even, it don't even belong to you yet. You just a sojourner right now. And I'm promising that I'm gonna give this to you. And the first thing he does is make an altar, and he basically worship. So he just, okay, this is my promise to you. And Abram just like move in obedience, and he worshiped the Most High before the promise is even fulfilled. And it's like before he even really established himself, he is worship. Let me worship before I even get established. So I just thought that there's something that we can take note of before before it fulfills. I mean, worship. Like, I don't know. That's all I had.
Yeah, and that's something that stood out to me right away, Sister Nicole. Like you said, worship before the promise. And it's like, sticking, relying on the Most High, abiding by the vine, knowing that what He has said will come to pass, and continual thankfulness, worship, and then, of course, guidance. Because even after, after the promise, we still need specific guidance from the Most High to continue going. So that was, very, very powerful, and something I noticed too. Thank you so much. Sister Tanita?
Yeah, so quick question. Yeah, that is good to see. But I'm wondering, and along with that, my question is, do you think that this form of doing these altars was still to atone? Because remember, I think it was in here when Noah came off the ark. Remember, he offered up sacrifices for the things that had happened in the earth right when he got off the ark. And at that point, the Father had already cleansed all the things, but he came out of the ark and built an altar of worship, right? Then was that in here that it happened?
Yes.
So I'm just wondering if, along with the worship, if this is also along the lines of a way of sacrificing for what's happening, because I think in the previous chapter we saw where they were being led astray by these spirits and all of this stuff. So I'm just wondering, does it also go along with that?
Anybody has an insight on that?
Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And
Okay.
what I can deduce from that is also solidifying the covenants, because every time an altar is raised, it's a form of worship, thankfulness, but definitely the covenant, to solidify the covenant. So that's another way I see it.
Yeah, I'm just saying because of the sin that was happening, because I found it very interesting that Noah would come off that ark and start building these altars, right? And it said for, I think it was based on the sin that had happened in the earth, and everything had been cleansed in. He did it. And then as we continue on in these chapters, we're seeing how people are being led astray. And that we definitely would worship. So I definitely agree with what Nicole is saying, but I'm also wondering if it's also tied to some of the sin, because they're still atoning for it. So yeah, thank you. Okay.
Yeah, excellent observation. Sister Nicole?
I think it can be both because you notice like throughout scripture, I think it was for worship, gratitude, like just calling on him and sacrifice. But because if you even look throughout other parts of like Judges and the Kings and the prophets, Israel, it was a common thing for them when they needed. They a lot of times they set these they offer these sacrifices, these burnt offerings to the Most High because they needed something from Him. They was calling on Him for help. So it could be like I've seen it as from through David and others as a sign of to symbolize worship. It can be for atonement, but it also like throughout if they needed like before a lot of times before they went to war and everything they were always like they would they would do these set up these altars and offer these offerings to the Most High to because they're calling on him for help. So I think it really symbolizes a multitude of things from them. It was many reasons as to why they would offer these sacrifices. I don't think it was always about atonement for sin, but it was about atonement from sin. It was about worship. It was about gratitude. It was about, hey, we need you. We need you now. We need a response. And then, and after they would offer these offerings, he would always, that's when he would come and he would demolish nations for them. He would come in, and act for them. So I think that it has many reasons as to why. That's all I have.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Anybody has anything to add? Okay, I will. So that covers, I think what we've discussed so far is like at least to verse 9. So, verse 10, he left that place and went toward the south and came to Hebron, and Hebron was built at that time. And he lived there 2 years, and he went from that place into the land of the south to Beloth, and there was a famine in the land. Abram went into Egypt in the 3rd year of the week, and he dwelt in Egypt 5 years before his wife was torn away from him. Now Tanai in Egypt was built 7 years after Hebron. When Pharaoh seized Sarai, the wife of Abram, war plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarai, Abram's wife. Abram was celebrated and admired because of his great possessions of sheep, cattle, donkeys, horses, camels, men servants and maid servants, and silver and gold. Lot and his brother's son, I'm sorry, Lot, his brother's son, were also wealthy. Pharaoh gave back Sarai, the wife of Abram, and he sent him out of the land of Egypt. And he journeyed to the place where he had pitched his tent at the beginning, to the place of the altar with Ai on the east and Bethel on the west. And he blessed while his Most High, who had brought him back in peace. Verse 16, in the 41st Jubilee, in the third year of the first week, that he returned to this place and offered on it a burnt sacrifice and called on the name of Wah and said, You, the Most High Wah, are my Wah forever and ever. Okay, between Sister Nicole, Sister Nangula, and whoever is first can go.
My hand was up from last time. It's not good.
Oh, okay.
I just have a question at the verse where it says, Sarai was taken by Pharaoh. In the Bible, it says, in Genesis, let me say, it says that Abram said that it was his sister, that's why he took him, and after being plagued, he blamed Abraham and asked him, "Why have you lied to me?" Now, I just want to ask, how do you all view that? Because there are some people who say Abraham was not a righteous person because of this lie. I'm just interested on how do you view it? Is it an addition or is it a subtraction in the book of Jubilee, or was it a lie? Was it a mistake? Yeah.
I have my opinion, but I guess Brother Reno, you can go.
All right, yeah. I think in regards to that, I think it was part of Yahweh's grand plan to use somebody who was not perfect, right? He goes back to what I was saying the other day. He uses flawed people on purpose, right? But when you look at it, Abraham technically did not, I guess you could say he lied by omission on half of the lie, but he technically didn't commit a full lie because she was his half sister. See what I'm saying? So yeah, he was terrified that these kings would see his wife, and these people in power would see his wife. And right, brother Michael, it wasn't actually a lie. So he just picked the side of the story that best suited him because he knew that these brutish men out here in the world that he was living in, they would kill you for your woman. You know, as many stories it seems in scripture where these guys will kill you for your woman. Even even his son later on went through the same thing. So it's like, you know, you got a beautiful woman and you're traveling, but then you got thousands of people who would murder you for your wife. Yeah, that's kind of deep. I mean, it would make a person kind of want to survive, you know, as Sister Mavis just said. Yeah, but that's how I see it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brother Reno. Yeah, that's the way I saw it too. And technically, like you said, it was not a lie. It was not a lie, and he knew what he was up against. So, but and also it's just at this point he had relied on the Most High all this time. But it's just it's something that I guess instinctively things that come into our head what to do right away is like fear. I remember recently I had like an internal audit, and I mean, if any of you have been audited before, it's just you're on pins and needles. You want everything to be perfect. And usually I'll just keep quiet about everything. But I said something, and later, like within 30 seconds of saying it, I was like, why did you say that? Because the implication, the legal implication would have been very severe. But I don't even know where that came from. So it's just the need to survive, the need to um I mean self-preservation. So anyway, yes, I can definitely identify with Abram. I guess whoever is next can go.
Yeah, I'm over here laughing at Bro Reno because he sound like my son. Well, technically, I didn't really lie. No, but I agree. I agree. He didn't lie. You're right. That was his sister. But one thing I wanted to highlight is that this just tells you how good our Father is, because he doesn't expect perfection out of us in order for us to be considered righteous, because David was righteous, Job was righteous, Abraham was considered righteous. So many people, if you look at so many people in the scriptures, the apostles was considered to be righteous, but look at where they came from. And I was like, look at, if we just um I think righteousness is not perfection. Perfection was the Messiah. Messiah was the one and only perfect person that walked the earth. If we had to live up to the standards of Messiah to be considered righteous, then not one could ever claim to be righteous. But I just look at how the Most High used so many people. He considered David to be righteous, and a lot of the kings that follow in the line of David, he would always say in the Most High, he loved David because David had a heart for him. And I think that's what made David's righteous. That's what make us righteous, our heart for the Most High, our heart to want to be obedient to him and to his statutes. And though David did fall and he did sin, he still his heart desired to obey the Most High. And when you look at the kings after him, he always used him as an example. Always used David as an example. He say they walked in the ways of their father David. Even though when you look at a lot of these kings like Hezekiah and some of the others, the Most High still considered them to have walked in the ways of David, their father, even though they stumbled and they did mess up. But he still considered them to be righteous because their hearts were with him. That's all I have.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful, Sister Nicole. It comes down to the intentions, the motivation behind our actions. And it's about the heart. The heart posture is everything. Thank you so much for that. Sister Tinida?
Yeah, I agree with pretty much what everyone has said. But in all due respect, we know that half truth is not always what some consider to be not telling a lie, if that makes sense. But with that being said, I'm seeing that reading scripture that there are some things that the Father permits. When I say permits, I mean there are some things that He allows. So with her question, when I get that from people, sometimes I'm wondering what is their reason for saying it. Now, if I'm saying, like we're having this discussion, why would the Father allow him to do that and Isaac to do it? We can even ask, why would he allow Rahab to lie about the spies? But Rahab wasn't necessarily, I guess, supposed to be one of his people, but she ended up in Israel, like as a part of it, right, in the genealogy. So long story short, I guess what I'm saying, it seems like there's some permissible things that the Father allows. And then also with that, when you're talking to people and they ask me questions like this, I start to wonder, what is their reason for asking? So if we're asking to see what the Father allows, knowing that it's not okay for us to continue to go forward and tell lies. So we're asking with the right heart, as you always saying, and as Nicole said, But then you have people that will come to you and want to debate and debunk scripture or discredit scripture by saying that. But what kind of guy would allow Abraham to lie and to do that? So when people do that, sometimes I answer them based on what's their motive for asking. Now, if you're genuinely trying to get understanding, then I'll explain some things or try to show you some things in scripture. But if you're coming at me because you're trying to make the scripture out to be a lie or the Father to be something else, I'm not going to deal. I just decide that I'm not going to deal that with them because their motive is wrong. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, Sister Tanita. It's always about people's motivations. Like, why are you dwelling on this? And like some people would say that polygamy is permissible, and they will give one example in the Bible, and like their whole thing is like just that one example, and that's good enough. And then you have to ask them, like, you're right, are you trying to seek understanding, or is because you decided to do this particular act, so you are trying to justify yourself? And the whole Bible, from Genesis to Revelation and all this additional book, if you can only come out with this one verse and dwell on it, something is wrong. But you're absolutely right. It all comes down to what, the posture of the heart. And thank you for that. Sister Ingrid?
Yeah, I'm kind of suspect of anybody that like approaches me with what kind of God. At that point, like if you dare question the Almighty, I don't even know what to say. I really don't. I'm I'm speechless, you know. Um, I guess the answer to what kind of God is you'll find out. Okay. Um, Yeah, I had a conversation with somebody this morning and something was going, well for them at work. And I was telling them what I was going to do today, and they were going, "Oh, it's going to go great for you too." And I said, "Yeah, that would be a blessing." They were like, "No, not a blessing, it's luck." And I thought, okay, this is a fool. Um, but they have a right to, he gave us free will. So you, I don't know what to say, but anybody that approaches me by saying, "What kind of God?" I mean, that's just so incredibly offensive. Um, yeah, that's basically all I have to say. Everything that I wanted to say, Reno said it, and Nicole said it. So I have nothing else to contribute except what I heard her say. What kind of people actually saying, "What kind of God?" You are really brazen and crazy. Okay, if you have enough nerve to say, "What kind of God?" I guess you'll find out.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, mere humans to think that we know more than the Most High that had created all things.
Oh,
And
sorry, go ahead. I just remembered something, but go ahead, please.
no, please go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and I love the fact that he chose like these, for lack of a better term to describe them, these greatly flawed people to be like the heroes of the Bible, right? That tells me there's hope for me. Like if everybody had been like Job, right? But David did a lot of horrible things, but he was still a man after the Father's heart. Abraham wasn't perfect. Um, Now, whether or not he lied, I don't know. I don't know how it went down. Like if he said, "Who is this woman?" and he said, "She's my sister." Well, that's not a lie because she was his sister, right? But if he said, but if Pharaoh said, "Is she your wife?" and he said, "No, she's my sister," then that's a lie. But yeah, I love the fact that there's so many just normal people. They're flawed and they just make mistakes. But what they all have in common is that they love him and they repent, right? And I love that he chose these people. I imagine if everybody was like Job in scripture, just, you know, that would make me think, okay, is there hope for me? Because I'm so flawed. But because he chose these greatly flawed people to tell their history, the most horrible thing that I can think of that David did was when he had, I can't think of his name, but he had him killed over that woman. That was pretty horrible.
Uriah. Mm-hmm. Uriah.
So,
Yes, Sister Ingrid, you're absolutely right. I'm glad there are all these, the patriarchs, the people that have gone, before us that we can identify with, because
just regular folk.
yes, regular people, regular. So that tells us that like you said, we do have a chance, and we'll be okay. Just keep on. We whatever it is, we continue to repent and dwell in Him. Thank you for that, Sister Nicole.
I just wanted to highlight something before we moved on to the next section. When Abram moved into the land, um, the famine, the famine got me, and it just made me think. He moved into this land. The Most High promised him this land. He moved into it, and then famine. And then when you get to Jacob and his sons, basically Israel moving down to Egypt, it ultimately goes into slavery. And then I'm trying to think of some other instances where the Most High moves and then something big happens. Like, okay, then the Most High comes into Egypt and he delivers them from slavery. And then bam, 40 years in the wilderness. And it's just thing after thing. And it just like I know, and I'm gonna bring up what Bro Reno was talking about on his um spirit led discussion. It was when he talked about when the well runs dry, and I just think about all these instances when the Most High tell people to move, and then when they get to it, or even John the Baptist. When you look at John the Baptist, like he knew that he had an assignment, but he questioned. He told them to ask Messiah, "Are you really who? Are you really who they say you are?" Like the one that we've been waiting on. Like it's always these questions. Then it just remind me of how sometimes the Most High moves us into a situation, and then things become very difficult. It's like the situations he put us in aren't always easy. It always sometimes is followed by these very difficult times. And when you look at a lot of them, like Abram and some, you see this obedience doing the difficulty, and then this period of just waiting, like, and it's always like I'm like when things happen and we face hardship, it's encouraging to know that just because you're facing hardship, it doesn't mean that you're not necessarily moving in the will of the Most High. It doesn't necessarily mean that things aren't playing out in the will of the Most High. You think about the hardship and difficult times that's faced when you moving in the direction that the Most High points you, and then the difficult and hard times that you face when you're not moving in His direction, when you go and chase after these things, and I will tell you, during the times in my life when I went chasing after things that I absolutely knew wasn't within His will, but I wanted them, they was my desire. That hurt and that difficulty was a heck of a lot worse than the hurt and the difficulty that I face when I'm being obedient to the Most High. I don't know. I just found that encouraging how it just encouraged me to know when I face difficult times, it's not always that I'm not moving in His will. Sometimes difficult times follows obedience. That's all I had.
Yeah, I'm so glad you picked up on that, Sister Nicole. Because I mean, when I was reading it, one thing that stood out, like, okay, you told the person to do this, and now this is what is happening. And I realized the importance of that, because I mean, for the Most High to promise us a land, imagine as a person how you feel, how happy, how I cannot imagine the feeling. It's quite amazing, and to have that direct access to the creator of all things. I think for most of us, we will get into the mood of just focusing on the promises instead of the promiser, So I think all of that is to steady, for us to be steady in our faith. And, it's a period of refinement that when he does give us all that he has promised us, we will not get lost in the things that he has given us, and to continue on to dwell in him, for everything else. Because I Paul came in mind when I was reading, when Paul said, the the Messiah has given him like a thorn in his flesh. And imagine all the teachings, everything that Paul, by the set apart spirit, was able to impart to his people. They said knowledge does, puff it up. Knowledge can give a person a sense of superiority, but having that thorn in his flesh, it was a time to constantly, seek the face of the Most High. So thank you so much for picking up on that. And Sister Tanita.
Yeah, that was awesome. And it made me think about it. Thank you for that, Sister Nicole. If you said this, if she said this, I apologize, but I'm multitasking here a little. But she brought out the fact about the famine. And I thought about it, and like I said, I'm sorry if you said this already. He had to leave the land because of the famine. And then all of that happened, but he still went back pursuing the promise. And I'm just wondering how many of us, if I go somewhere today, like if I were to, let's say I were to relocate, get there, and it may be rough for a little while. Now, first of all, let me go back. If the Father tells me to go somewhere and I go, and I get there, and there's a famine, stuff is hard there. I just wondering if I would question what the Father told me to do and turn back and not think that's the promise, or would I go maybe to somewhere closer to that difficulty is over, and then get back on the path that the Father put me on initially? I'm just wondering if I would think that the famine means that I was off. I didn't really hear from the Father, because Abraham went after that. He went back and went on, knowing that that's what the Father had said. So yeah, I'm just wondering if I would. I'm seeing Abraham different, and I'm thanking her for pointing that out.
Yes, Tanita. It's like, yeah, like what did I really hear from why? What is happening? Yeah. It's sometimes we'll question ourselves, and that's what Sister Nicole said. Like when John the Baptist started, questioning, like, are you who is to come, to the Messiah, or is there something else? Is there someone else, excuse me, coming? So a moment of difficulty causes us to question, like, is the Most High really with us, or are we, something else going on? So thank you for that, Sister Ingrid.
In regards to hearing from the Father, so maybe I have too much other noise going on. But there's one in particular distinct time that I'm pretty sure I heard from him, right? I had just decorated my office at work, and I was so happy. And I saw this little Buddha statue, and I bought this statue and put it in my office. And then I didn't know that there was anything wrong. I just thought it was a cute little fat man. I got home that night and I was praying, and a voice, audible to only me, told me to throw that statue away. And I threw it away the very day when I went to work the next day. I threw it away, right? But just when people talk about hearing from him, And there was one other time where I heard an audible voice, and it was, again, a work-related issue. Um, and they had called me in and they were basically telling me they were eliminating my position, but they were giving me these options. And I actually felt like something, I felt a hug, like someone hugged my shoulder. And this is before I knew his name, right? And the voice that was only audible to me said, God's hand is on this situation. Um, and I've been okay ever since. Now I have had my trials and tribulations, but I guess I want to talk about hearing from him and I want to hear from him more regularly. I don't want to just guess. I want to know that I'm hearing from him. Does that make sense? I want to hear that little voice. I want to hear that voice that told me to throw that Buddha away. Okay, that was undeniable. And, and I'm thankful for that because to me that's confirmation that I'm his and he didn't want me having that other God, that statue, right? I mean, and I didn't think of it that way, but I'm thinking I offended him by putting that in my office, right? Because I mean, that particular day his voice was audible. So yeah, I want to just like have people, I want to hear people's thoughts about like hearing from him. And is it because I have so much other stuff going on in my life that, I can't hear that still gentle voice because I've got so much other noise. I don't know.
Yeah, but that is really powerful, hearing from him to tell you to, get rid of something. Um, uh, it's just, I think the Most High, hear from, I mean, is constantly trying to get our attention. When you're reading Job, paraphrasing, like I guess during the day, he tried to get our attention, but at night, sometimes there's so many during the day, the stimulations of modern day or daily living can be too much. And sometimes we don't get what he's saying. But when it's quiet, especially at night, he gets our attention through dream, through however, like vision in the night. So that's pretty powerful, hearing from him, letting you know that, hey, you have to get rid of this thing. That is powerful. Thank you for sharing. And I guess in anybody that has any addition about hearing from the Most High, Sister Nicole has her hand up. So Sister Nicole, you can go.
I just wanted to respond to Sister Nita when she was saying how Abraham went into the land and there was a famine and he left. It's funny to me because that's the same reason that Jacob and his sons ended up going to Egypt as well because of the famine. And then they left Egypt to go to the land that was promised. But it's thinking about what Sister Nita was saying is when she was saying how he went back. Like, what would we do if we like went on the assignment that the Most High had for us and something like that happened? I'll tell you, I'm not built like they were back then because I've been going back and forth about me moving to Ghana. I feel like I'm being called to move to Ghana. And y'all, I just been hearing so much, like so many Americans that move to Ghana, like all the gripes and complaints they have about moving to Ghana. And at least Abram made it to the land to experience the famine. Because I'm like John the Baptist, but John the Baptist was acting like that in prison. He had already started his mission. He's been out there fighting a good fight. Now he's in prison because of the good fight. And I'm still sitting back here asking God, I'm like, John the Baptist, are you sure this what you have for me? Like I'm questioning the assignment before I can even respond or accept the assignment. So to answer your question, I don't know, Tanita, if I would be willing to go back after you get there and you experience famine. I think sometimes we get so comfortable in our skin that we're afraid to face the discomfort. And moving from the US to Ghana will be a significant change. for us. And it was funny because I used to tell my husband that. I was like, he's like, oh my goodness, but it's hot. And as I said, oh, so basically it's about your comfort. And now that I look and study myself, it has to be about my comfort too, because I'm hearing what people are saying, and now I'm questioning what the Most High had for me. So I don't know. I feel like a lot of the decisions that they made back then, I have to show a lot of them grace, because I look at myself and I'm like, I don't even think I would make it as far as most of them made it with that, with obedience on that level. That's all I had.
Yes, Nicole, you're absolutely right. We all have some sort of core mission going on, and what I remember after the Book of Enoch studies with Sister Tierney, at the very, very end, I think the last day she was asking everybody, like, I guess people's mission and stuff. But for that day, for some reason I couldn't um, sign on Zoom the normal way. I had to dial in, and when I dialed in, I didn't realize that, oh, I couldn't talk from I mean, for some reason, it wouldn't allow me to talk. I don't know why. But I remember her asking everybody their mission and everybody saying, and so I was thinking, I said, what is my mission? And of course, then everything came back. It's like, I've given you this dream like 3 days in a row. And all of a sudden, this young boy, and that day I was working at the same time, this young boy out of nowhere just came staring at me, staring at me. And at the time, it didn't even click. But then later, everything just came. It's like, yep, that is the mission. So, and of course, having the mission, like what to do now, okay, so how do you want me to go about it? So I can definitely relate how you're feeling, and you know what to do, but it's like how to start, how to initiate, and I know in his time everything will come together, because I'm looking at Abram, like he told him, go. Yeah, that is straight. That is okay, go. But sometimes, like, you're not sure where is the going. Like, is it here? Is this somewhere? So I can definitely relate. And then the comfort, it's like you're used to certain lifestyle. How is it going to work out? But I believe whatever he starts, he will finish. So thank you for that. Sister Nangula?
That is a very important topic for me, about how to hear and hearing from Wa, because I'm very interested, especially with the Book of Jubilee that we're studying now, very interested on noticing how the men of Wa prayed, and how they heard his voice. I think I'm not sure what exactly it is, but I think there's a difference of how we have been taught of how to pray and how to hear the voice of Wah from Christianity. I'm still trying to learn, but thank you for that. I'm learning. But one thing I also have realized is that the path that Wah is calling us to it does not promise comfort. It does not promise the lack of disappointments or bad happening. He only promises that he will see you through it all. That's his only promise. And I'm sure everybody has a story. The trend that I'm realizing, I'm noticing in the people that are coming out of religion and really serving Wah, are those that have been despised. For even Isaiah 53 verse 3, I believe, says the prophecy of Messiah is that he was a man of sorrow, acquainted with grief, and there was nothing attractive about him, and people despised him. That's me paraphrasing. Um, and those are the type of people that I'm I'm noticing are being called out of Christianity or other religions into the narrow path. So, yes, it looks like this is the path we have to endure in or walk in the narrow path. You know, I thought of something, but I cannot. Yes, so that's it.
Thank you so much, Sister Nangula, and you're right. The path, I mean, if you look at everybody that the Messiah had called for a particular mission, I think it's basically what we've been talking about, that it's not going to be smooth, but all of it is to let us know that it's important that we rely on Him. I mean, we look at Abram coming back, putting an altar, worshiping the Most High, and asking, continuing praying and asking Him to basically, so He will be able to fulfill His mission and just continuing to dwell in Him. So I think the whole discomfort is to to let us know who our creator is, and to also know that whatever He says, He will really definitely accomplish it. And we can go on, but definitely we have to, if anybody has any insight with what Sister Ingrid said about hearing from Wa, like how do you hear from Wa? So maybe we can finish and come back if we want to think about it, and maybe give her some answers. So I will continue on to verse 17. In the 4th year of this week, Lot parted from him, and Lot lived in Sodom. And the men of Sodom sinned greatly. It grieved him in his heart that his brother's son had parted from him, because Abram had no children. After Lot had parted from him in the 4th year of this week, in that year when Lot was taken captive, Wa said to Abram, "Lift up your eyes from the place where you are dwelling, northward and southward and westward and eastward. All the land that you see, I will give it to you and to your offspring forever, and I'll make your offspring as the sand of the sea. Though a man may number the dust of the earth, yet your offspring shall not be numbered." Verse 21, "Arise, walk through the land in the length of it and the breadth of it, and see it all. To your offspring will I give it." And Abram went to Hebron and lived there. So that's 17 to 21. Any observation? Okay. So this part, I guess I can, I want to ask these questions like, Lot's choice of land, how does that reveal his values and priorities? Like where he chose. Like, why did he choose the land that he chose? Because it seems like at that time, that area looks really nice, very green and everything. So at the time, I guess it looks good. But then at the end of it all, we know what happened. And Sister Ingrid?
Was a lot more led by the flesh than Abraham was. So this is hard to talk about, but what went on with his daughters? I don't think there's another alcohol in the world that I wouldn't recognize my children, right? So I guess my question is, was Lot more led by the flesh? That's why he chose like the area around Sodom. He wanted and his wife too, for that matter. Remember when it was time to go? she had to look back. Why did she look back? I don't know. I can only assume, was she looking back, because of the life that she didn't want to leave? Um, is there like this sharp contrast between Lot and Abraham? Was Lot more led by the flesh and Abraham more led by the spirit? That's all I've got.
And that is very important point, like what we allow our eyes to see and what is really, happening in the spirit. Initially, things might look really, really good, but then, we don't know what is at the end of it. And the sinful nature of the place that, he chose, it probably had all the modern conveniences, and it looks like it was a very happening place. So yeah, why not choose that place? But the end of it all, look what happened. And with um, Lot's wife, it just, I mean, it's when I read the story of Lot's wife, it comes down to, I mean, living comfort, living what we are used to. I mean, it comes back to what we are talking about, like the comfort of life and just leaving it behind for something else, something promised, the unknown. And that can always be difficult. And I think also with Lot's wife, I'm trying to remember if there were other family members that they were leaving behind. Because I know the children and the girls had husbands that they had to leave behind. So anyway, Sister Nicole.
I think with Lot, I think it may had a lot to do. I kind of could put you in the mind of Canaan. Canaan himself. He chose, he was given a piece of his inheritance. He was given his inheritance, his land, but he decided, I'm gonna just shack up here in Shem's because it looks good. He liked the way it looked, and I feel like that's kind of a decision that Lot made, similar to Canaan. He chose that land because it looked good, and it brings me back to what I was saying earlier about me wanting to move to Ghana. And like when I think about all the discomfort, the life being looking different from what the life that I'm used to living. And so sometimes we take the thing that looked the most desirable, the US looked like a very desirable place to live, but we are literally living in the midst of Sodom and Gomorrah living. And it's Sodom and Gomorrah living in this place. And it's like it's just kind of convicting when you think about Lot. He chose that place because of, it looked good, but look what happened. Look what was going on around him in that place. So it's kind of really making me think like I'm choosing this place, but look at everything that's going on around me. And I feel like the Most High is constantly warning us of all the things that are going on around us, but we're so comfortable and we're so used to it that we become desensitized to everything that's going around us. And it's just really making me look at what he's calling me to do, because what looks good ain't always good. And then, it's really not. I mean, we just kind of waiting on the Most High's judgment to hit this place. And that's where I gotta keep reminding myself that it may be comfortable, but do you want to participate in her sin or be obedient when he tells you to come out of her, come out of her? So that's all I have.
Yeah, the comfort that we are used to and what our eyes can see, that seems like is good, but ultimately, there's something else at the end of it. And that's pretty powerful, Sister Nicole. Another observation, I mean, what I observed was another thing with this session with the Most High, continuing encouragement, encouraging Abram, like, I guess, repeating what he had told him, like, I will give you this. So there's a continual encouragement by dwelling in him, even though things might not be going the way we are hoping it will go to. We know that our Redeemer lives, and whatever it is, it will work out the way it's supposed to. So that's one thing that stood out to me, that he told him again, like, hey, I'll bring you back, and your descendants is going to be, this smart. So that stood out to me. Any additions? Okay, I'll continue. So let's finish it up. So, verse 22, and in the year came, and in this year came Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Amraphel, king of Shinar, and Ariel, king of Selasar, and Tegel, king of nations, and killed the king of Gomorrah, and the king of Sodom fled, and many fell through wounds in the valley of Sodom by the salt sea. They took captive Sodom and Admah and Zeboim, and they took Lot captive, the son of Abram's brother, and all his possessions, and they went to Dan. One who had escaped came and told Abram that his brother's son had been taken captive, and Abram equipped his household servants for Abram and for his offspring a tenth of the first fruits of wine, and ordained it as a law forever that they should give it to the priests who serve before him, that they should possess it forever. There's no limit of days to this law, for he has ordained it for the generations forever, that they should give to the tenth of everything, of the seed, and of the wine, of the oil, and of the cattle, and of the sheep. He gave it to his priests to eat and to drink with joy before him. The king of Sodom came and bowed down to him and said, our master Abram, give to us the souls which you have rescued, but let the booty be yours. And Abram said to him, I lift up my hands to the Most High, that from a thread to a shoe latchet I shall not take anything that is yours, so that you could never say, I have made Abram rich, except only that the young men, Aner and Eshcol and Mamre, have eaten, and the portion of the men who went with me, they shall take their portion. And that's the end of that. Anything, stand out this part? Yes, Sister Ingrid.
Is this regarding tithing? And if so, right, like someone like me, I don't like attend like church in a building. And if I'm supposed to be giving a tenth, how should I give that tenth? Because it kind of sounds like tithing to me. Or is this the Feast of First Fruit, just the Feast of First Fruits? Or is it both?
Good question. Any take on that?
Which particular verses was it?
Um,
This was
The
21.
10th, 26 or something?
yeah, I think it's 20, in my Bible, it's 25 through, maybe like 25 through 27.
So your question was, is this a tithe?
Is this tithing, and how does this impact our lives? Are we supposed to be giving a tenth? And if so, how do we give that tenth? Or me, I don't know if you guys attend a building, but I don't. So how do I give the tenth? I mean, it says for Abram and for his seed, a tenth of first fruits to Yahuwah, and Yahuwah ordained it as an ordinance forever, that they should give it to the priests who serve before him, that they should possess it forever. And to Torah, there is no limit of days. Or to this Torah, there is no limit of days. He's ordained it for the generations forever that they should give to Yahuwah the tenth of everything, of the seed, and of the wine, and of the oil, and of the cattle, and of the sheep.
My understanding, this was a tithe, and even the New Testament speaks of it, because based on this may be one of the first references of it to me, from what I can recall. But we know, my understanding is the tithe was for the Levites because they were the one that were to attend to the I guess you could say the temple, the ark, right? They were the ones that were to do that. All the other ones received a portion of land. They received, like a portion of land and all. And the Levites lived within cities, within certain portions of that. And so the tithe went to the Levites because they had a mission to take care of the house. And that was their work and stuff that it was. So my understanding is that we give, but things are not in order now where we are tithing to them for that purpose. And this is me personally, because for years I did tithe, and I don't have an issue with giving or anything, but tithing, from my understanding now, my studies, is not what they're saying. I told you I read that book of pagan Christianity, and there was a tenth that started, I think it was in Europe, that started based on land rent. So that's the history of the tithe as far as the early church is concerned. But it didn't start, it wasn't, from my understanding, it wasn't biblical. They tied it to that later. But the tithe that most of us are talking about today came from the early church fathers with that renting of land. And then later they connected it with this. So my understanding is we definitely give, because the Most High commands us to give to the poor, the widow, and all of that. And so we definitely are supposed to give. But these people are not priests that we're giving to. I know they're going to say that they're priests or whatever, but I've said at some point, well, then maybe you shouldn't have land and have possessions, because there was a purpose for that tithe. And I don't have an issue with supporting the ministry or something like that, or even if they're doing it, but that obligation, don't try to tie it to like it all being biblical that way, because it doesn't all line up. You can't pick and choose how the tithe works. That's just my opinion. So, yeah.
I think I have that book. Does it have a red cover?
It does. And it tells
Yeah,
you about the
I have
tithe starting with the
I
land
haven't read
rent.
that part. My mother stole it from me, so I went and bought another one. I've got one. That's a good book. I've got that around
It
here
is a
somewhere.
good book, Sister Ingrid. Yes, it is.
But it says, and to this Torah, so this law, right? That's law, right? There is no limit of days, for he has ordained it for the generations forever that they should give to Yahuwah the tenth of everything, of seed, of wine. So even if we don't have like a structure, does that mean like we should designate like a tenth, like for the poor, or just
You
a
gotta
lot
be
of
led,
things.
but I do that. Yes, I pull it. I definitely do that, and I have it there reserved for whatever I feel leads me to do with it. So I automatically do that. But this whole structure, I don't see that the same anymore.
I don't see it either because I don't really know like a church that's worthy of my money. I'm not buying pastor a new car. I'm just no. So if I knew a physical structure, where the people were trying to live their lives in accordance to his will and they were meeting on the Sabbath, then yeah, but I don't know of that. So anyway, I just want to know how this impacts you and I. This says forever. You should give them a tenth of everything.
Yes, it is forever. And I guess that's what um, the first fruits, I think that ties in with the Feast of First Fruit or the Feast of Harvest. And with the tide, I think as right now, the situation is what it is right now, and what I do is like any ministry, any medium that is helping me, learn about the Most High. I feel like, because people always have a need, people, however they bring out the information, it takes time to research. It takes time, internet stuff like that. So however we can contribute, and definitely, the poor, widow, orphans, definitely. So that is a very important question, Sister Nicole.
I just agree with Sister Nita on the whole tithing thing. I was just kind of explaining that to my husband about the Levites and how they were on assignment at the temple. They would go and they would literally stay at the temple. I think they worked it in shifts. They were there for like a month or a couple months at a time. So who's caring for their homes and their household, while they're on temple duty? And I think those tithes had a lot to do with the Levites being on temple duty. And she's right, like they weren't given an inheritance of land and stuff like everybody else. So everybody else was given their portion. So a portion of what they were given, they are called to give it to the Levites because the Levites weren't given their portions. I mean, the pastor at the church that I work at, he has another job. So it's like you can't really compare them to the Levites. And I know I've always been. When I was in the church, I was a faithful tither. I tithe my 10% most of the time, well over 10%, and then I gave my offerings. But now, and I do believe, like for me, the orphans and the widows are the ones who are close to the Most High's heart, and that's where I focus. And it doesn't always have to be our finances; it can be our time or whatever it may be. And what I do is I set my tithe aside and I told my husband I want to build a foundation for kids that are aging out of the foster system. I want to focus on the orphans and widows. So we take that money and we set it aside every month. And we do give. Don't get me wrong. When I see people with needs, I love to help people. But I use the New Testament of how the Messiah says he loved, like the Most High loves a cheerful giver, and I give. I like to give out of the kind of my heart. And I feel like every time I give, I'm led by the spirit to give. So I try to just take whatever the spirit tells me to give. That's how I choose how I give. And I feel like he's calling me to the orphans and widows, and I'm gonna put this money aside to build this foundation to help kids in the foster system. And if the Most High turns me into another direction, then that money will go somewhere other than. But I definitely don't feel obligated to give it to a corporation because that's what most of these churches are. They're corporations. That's all I have.
Oh, thank you so much, Sister Nicole, for adding that. Thank you. And finishing up this chapter, like the importance of Abram giving that 10%, so after his success, his victory, realizing that he has to, and Melchizedek is a figure that I'm still trying. I have an idea who Melchizedek is. Does anybody? Oh, okay. Sister Nangula. Oh, Sister Nicole.
I'm sorry, I forgot to lower my hand.
Okay, Sister Nangula.
Yes, I just wanted to touch on the part where Abraham like refused to take some of the spoil because his reason was, I don't want you to say that you made me rich. Now that's a man who trusts in his word, because how many of us are really able to say no to a blessing that somebody is giving us? And how many of us want to really give, and how many of us will say that or refuse whatever a person is giving you because you don't want to give credit to a mere man, but you want to give credit to Wah, knowing that he will bless you. That stood out to me, and it was just an example worthy of replicating.
Thank you, Sister Nangula. Yeah, that was a very important observation. Like you said, how many people will say no, and it's the source of the blessing, knowing that if you have the creator of all things going to give you all this, what is it to take this from a man? So yeah, very important observation. So circling back, how are we done with chapter 13? And okay, if we are, anybody has anything to tell Sister Ingrid about how they hear from the Most High?
Wait, before you go to that, you say you were going to tell
Oh,
us who you
sorry.
think that Melchizedek
Yeah,
was.
yeah. Like how the tithe was given to Melchizedek. This. It doesn't mention Melchizedek, but we all know, and that was him from reading Genesis. Brother Reno.
Oh no, you can go. I wanted to just attempt to answer Sister Ingrid's question after you were done.
Oh, okay, Brother Reno. Yeah, so I,
Oh, and is it on me? Were you finished with the Melchizedek explanation?
unless somebody has something to say about Melchizedek.
Now, I want to know. I've heard some stuff, but I want to know. Yeah, I want to know who you. I want to hear from you.
From me.
Yeah.
I'm asking, I'm asking the
Right. We
person.
want this good advice. We need this good stuff because
Yes,
she got
that's
it.
right, Brother
Yes.
Reno.
Are we still talking about Melchizedek here or something else?
Melchizedek, yes.
Um, I guess, in asking the question, I guess, it's already been answered about. I've heard Melchizedek being a figure of um, the Messiah, and like an example of the Messiah. That's one thing I heard, and I think at some points in the Bible it says so too. But I wanted to. It's like a mystery figure to me that I'm always trying to like get a better understanding. So I guess that was my question.
Mm. I've heard different things, but it does mention that it had no father, no mother. So it's a big mystery. Well, I'll say mystery, but there's a lot of, for lack of a better word, mystery around that.
Mm.
But I
Well,
have heard that too, Sister Ingrid, that being an example of Christ. And then I don't know how this works though. So this may be totally off. I'll say that somebody even implied Shem, but I don't know. So yeah.
yeah, I've heard that also too. Yeah. So
Okay.
I guess something we can pray on and hopefully we'll get a better revelation. So, Brother Winro, you can go ahead answer, I guess, Sister Ingrid.
Yeah. I'll do that. So I guess her question was how to better hear from the Most High or something in regards to that, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, something just kind of came to my head of what I do. This is something I do. Um, I rarely feel like that he's not listening to me, or I rarely feel like that I'm not hearing from him. But every now and then, I'll get an indication that I'm not exactly as close to the set apart spirit as I want to. So I instantly drop to my knees and I just start worship, right? And I'll do a couple of minutes of worship, and then I got this prayer book. I'll do like a couple of prayers out of the prayer book, but then I'll go into my own freestyle prayer for at least 30 minutes, with my eyes closed, just speaking to him. And I'll go to confessing stuff that I've done wrong, right? And calling out stuff that I know I'm wrong in, and calling out behaviors in my personality that I know I'm wrong in, right? What I find is when you worship and when you confess your iniquities and sins, and even just your bad personality traits or whatever the case, while praying to him for at least a 30-minute stretch. I do it while laying in the bed, actually. I know Sister Nicole said she don't allow her kids to worship y'all laying down, but I do it all the time, right? And what happens is during that prayer, I'll instantly connect to the set apart spirit. My ears will start ringing real loud, real hard. I'll start my whole attitude and disposition changes, and then I instantly see things clearer. That's how I know I'm tapped into the set apart spirit at that time, because I instantly see things clearer, and whatever was bothering me at that time instantly becomes clear, and I get clarity in it and know exactly how to deal with it. And that's what I do. But it has to be like you kind of have to sacrifice. You got to sacrifice your ego to him. You got to sacrifice your worship to him, and then you got to kind of put yourself at a low station. When I drop to my knees, I'll put my forehead all the way to the ground, and I'll prostrate sometimes to put myself at a lower station. And I don't know, it works every time. It works like Billy D Code 45 works every time. But that's what I got. Hopefully it made sense. And I didn't mean to use it. Sorry for using the alcohol reference.
No, no, thank you. Thank you. So I'm going to share one thing real quick, and I want to know what people think about this. So I started hearing, I have 4 children, right? So even in my sleep, I'm on call, right? So I started hearing like this knocking and like in my sleep. And I thought it was my kids, right? And so like I would hear this, and it was never a doorbell, it was always knocking. And when I first time I heard it, I was like, yeah, what do you want? Right. So I was one of my kids, so I said, yeah, yeah. And then I realized it would be like the wee hours of the morning, right? And only 2 of my children still live with me, and they're in the bed. Um, and when I realized that's not what it was, I just started like when I would hear that knocking in my sleep, I would just get on my knees, right? I was like, okay, but what does that mean? Does anybody know what that I mean? Just it would sound like somebody was knocking at the door, right? Not, they didn't ring the doorbell. It was always a knock. And I mean, it wasn't a dream. It was a knock so that it would wake me up. And nobody's knocking on my front door, 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And that's not happening. But when I would, at first I really thought it was my kids. I would just go, yeah, or what do you want? Or what do you need? Right. But I don't know what it was. And I don't hear it as often as I used to. But now that I hear it, when I hear it, I just get out of bed and fall to my knees. Um, does that mean anything to anyone? Like I feel like he's trying to get my attention.
A question for you, like when the knocking, is it particular amount of time, like tab 1, 2, 3, 1, 2? Can you count, or is just constant knock?
It's not an annoyingly constant knocking. It's just like knocking the way you would knock at somebody's door. Like maybe it's 3 knocks, the same way my children would knock at the door, and I really thought it was them, right? In the beginning, I thought it was one of them. And I'll tell you something else interesting though. I One of my adult sons is a professing atheist, and I didn't tell him about the knocking, and then he started telling me he was hearing knocking in his sleep. And I said, "Oh, God's trying to get your attention." But that was interesting to me that he started hearing knocking in his sleep too. Um, so I don't know what that means.
Uh, I mean, for
And
for what Okay, so sometimes I listen to this particular person that I guess he really deals in spiritual warfare because of how he came to faith or the things that had happened in his life. But I guess the most important thing, at least when you hear this knock, you pray. And that alone, I think, is enough because the Most High, because he gets very deep into things that is not necessary to get into right now, maybe another time. But I'm glad, I mean, I'm at peace for you to say that you do, start praying. So I think that is good enough. Um, unless somebody has something to add. I think Sister Nicole.
I just wanted to say, and before this year, I don't think I've ever heard from the Most High until recently. And he started coming to me through not necessarily dreams, but I'm asleep and I would hear these voices while I'm asleep. And it's the strangest thing is when I wake up, he would always leave something to let me know that I'm not dreaming. Like things are happening in my room or wherever that lets me know that I'm not dreaming. And that was how he first started speaking to me. And that's when I started making sure he was the first and last thing on my mind. I would get up every morning and I would go in my closet and I would just lay on my face. I remember how when he told Moses and David, this is holy, when they said this is holy ground, and they removed their sandals and they fell to their face and they prayed to him. And that's how I started going to him first thing in the morning. And I would end within him at night. And then after that, now he started speaking to me through people. Like I would literally pray a prayer in no more than a day or two, somebody would come and say something to me that answered the prayer that I prayed. He would give me the answer through people. So it's just strange. There's so many different ways that he can speak to us. And at first, I didn't really believe that, when people come to you, oh, that's a sign from him until I asked him very specific questions and he gave me through people very specific answer. And the answer came as, well, the Most High, this older gentleman, he said, well, the good Lord told me, and twice, like these very specific questions that I had for him. And he gave me very specific answers from a person who literally told me that the Most High told them to say these words to me. So I think he talked to us in so many different ways and it can change. Like I said, he started speaking to me in one way and now he started speaking to me directly through other people. And oh, Sister Mavis, for some reason when I hear about Melchizedek as well, I also felt like there was a foreshadow of the Messiah as well, just so you know.
Thank you so much, Sister Nicole. Thank you for sharing. And I guess it's Sister Tanita, then Sister Nangula, or whoever is next.
I think she was before.
Okay.
Okay. With the knocking to me, I don't know why, but when Sister Nicole spoke about the knocking, I specifically thought about the story of Samuel, and that's what Brother Michael is saying as well in the comments. And yeah, it's a good thing to hear that you do go and pray, because just like Samuel, he was told to go and pray, basically. Yes. What else did I want to say? I lost my train of thought now. I don't remember anymore. It's okay. Sister Tanita can go while I think about what I was about to say.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to go off of what I've heard when it comes to spiritual warfare. So I'm not saying that this is your situation, Sister Ingrid, but this is just something to consider when you're praying. When I started to really wake up to some things. I started to learn some things about spiritual warfare, dreams, and things like that. My understanding is when we're sleeping, we're asleep, but maybe our spirits are not. And that is a time where it seems as if our spirits are not built up, I'm saying like in the things of the Father, right? Like Nicole was saying, what we're listening to, what we get up to, like our lifestyle, that is a time where you can be very vulnerable to some things, or people can be very vulnerable. I'll say that. And then these dreams, when it comes to dreams, people have different interpretations of dreams. But when it comes to warfare, you're here, especially on the dark side, things happening when people are sleeping. So in regards to the knock, the fact that you heard it and your son heard it, that is an interesting piece. But I would definitely seek the Father on if he is the one that is doing that, because my thought is, what is the follow-up to confirm it, that it was him? Because I know I'll be waking up sometimes in my sleep, and I know that there's times where he'll wake me up, and I haven't always got up to pray, but it's just like he wake me up, like I wake up. The reason I'm just saying this is with caution is with the knocking. I find it interesting that you and your son both have had, have heard that. And with so much going on out there when we're talking about spiritual warfare, I think it's great that you're praying to the Father at that time, but what is the purpose of waking you up or you hearing that knocking, and just seeking for clarity in that? It sounds like it could be warfare and also, but if you hear people more so speak about dreams and things like that happening, definitely when you're sleeping, I would just say, yeah, what is the confirmation? What is the purpose of him waking you up? Are you waking up to intercede? Are you waking up because something is going on? Because usually he's going to confirm it so you're not left in confusion. That's the most I have with that.
Yeah, it's it's the same knock that like my children do, like when I'm sleeping. I mean, it's a knock that'll wake me from my sleep, right? And I don't know what's I think there's, warfare going on around us constantly, and we don't know. But my spirit just felt like, okay, you need to get up and pray, right? I mean, it would just be knock, knock, knock.
Yeah, and I'm
I think,
leery. When I say
and
leery,
it
I'm
did,
very cautious of things when I'm sleeping. Like I don't play about my sleep because I feel like I'm vulnerable. To me, it makes me feel like somebody running up behind me gonna hit me with a bat or catching me off guard. Because you're doing it when I'm sleeping, and I don't think the Father approaches us. I'm not saying that's your situation, but I don't think that He approaches us that way. When He wakes me up, and it could just be me. He just wake me up, and I feel that unction inside to go and pray. So usually for me, it's coming from within. And I'm
now
not saying that he can't do it any other way. Yeah.
my son and I didn't have the experience at the same time. I'm going to say it was even months apart when he mentioned it to me. And I thought, and that's when I told him, I felt like that was the Father trying to get his attention. But regardless, I mean, let's say it is something demonic, right? The last thing it wants me to do is fall to my knees and pray. So anytime I
Absolutely.
hear it, I'm going to get up, fall to my knees and pray. But I just felt like it was time for me, like to get on my knees, to go to war. It's time for me to pray, right? So I don't know. You don't know what's going on, like in that realm when you're sleeping. Some of us do. Like I have friends that have like supposedly prophetic dreams and stuff. Usually, I'm not I'm just out. When I'm asleep, I'm out. I don't have like you know. I have had a couple of dreams, but for the most part, I'm just out until morning. But that knocking, I mean, I would literally get up and go, "Yeah, what do you want? What do you need?" And it wasn't an actual physical knock. But anyway, even if it's something other people told me that, yeah, that's not of the Father, regardless of the source, I think the best thing I can do is get on my knees, because if it's Him, then He wants to hear from me, and if it's not Him, then it's time for warfare, and that takes place on my knees.
Thank you so much, Sister Ingrid, for bringing that up. And I guess we can all learn from this. And like the most important thing is the prayer, because ultimately is the Most High that has the final say in all our lives and our situations. So I'm just thankful that when it happens, you pray, and hopefully in time He will reveal to you like the truth about it. And yeah, so are we done, or any final thoughts?
I just remember what I wanted to say. So I wanted to say that the way I hear for sure most of the time is through my dreams. I've always been a dreamer, and sometimes the enemy took advantage of that and started what's the word? Started taking advantage of my dreams and giving me nightmares and all those things. But most of the time, I've seen that Wa speaks to me in dreams. So even where the time I remember around the time when I'm seeking clarity, whether this is the path, the correct path, this is whether um going away from church, out of church, and seeking the truth for myself was the path, or just making sure that I wasn't about to lose my soul. The last time I went to church, I gave a testimony about my life, and immediately after, that was after I prayed that, wow, please show me the way, show me if this is the way I should go, show me, tell me, give and if it's not, still tell me, but I don't want to go ahead without knowing. So when I went to church, I gave my testimony, and the pastor's wife came out after my testimony and gave a dream about me. She had a dream about me. um I'm not sure, but to me it looked like it was run about the days after I prayed that I want direction, I want the truth, or whether this is the way to go. And she said that she had a dream of me having died, and my husband came to everybody saying that um my wife had died, but her spirit isn't leaving me. And then later on she saw me in her house, and I was just sitting there the same way I would sit in church, and she wanted to give me a handshake. And when she was about, and she thought her to herself that she had a revelation that I had gone to heaven. But when she saw me in her house, she was wondering, well, if she went to heaven, I've heard heaven is such a good place. Why is she here? Why is she not in heaven? And and then and then she woke up when she was about to give me the handshake. To her, that dream meant something else. But to me, I knew exactly what Wow was saying to me. So it's dreams like that. And during the day, when I'm so busy with my day, I would hear a voice in my mind. It's like my mind telling me that it's time to go pray now. I know you're busy with everything, drop everything. It's time to go pray now. So things like that, uh, that's how I hear from the Almighty. But I'm really interested, and I am seeking Wa for hearing His voice, really hearing His audible voice. That's one aspect of life where I'm lacking to say. Yes, that's it.
Thank you so much, Sister Nangola. I'm also a dreamer. And sometimes it's so vivid, especially I wake up very, very early, like unusually early, because that's when I would do my prayers, read His Word. And then after I'm done, for some reason, I like to, because I put in my prayers, I read, I like to like lay down for a few minutes, and it's amazing what the Most High can reveal to you in a few minutes. So sometimes that's how I get my information. Thank you, Sister Nangula. Anybody else? Okay, I guess We are done. Thank you so much, for coming, taking time out of your day on this, second day of the week. It can be quite hectic, but thank you. So I guess if we are done, I'm going to close us in prayer. Thank you, Most High. Wow. Thank you for this moment. Thank you for all that you've allowed us to discuss, the revelations, things that had come up for us to discuss. We bless your holy name. We pray for courage to act righteously and defend those in need, as Abram did for Lot. We pray for discernment to recognize and embrace divine appointments and blessing in our lives. We pray for your guidance to remain steadfast in faith, trusting in your provision, and rejecting worldly temptation. We thank you for all that you are allowing us to learn. We bless your holy name. We thank you for the ultimate priesthood, the Messiah who intercedes on our behalf. And as we continue on our day, please guide us. Please help us the rest of the week, all of our interaction. And please, we continually ask for your blessing. And I pray this in the Messiah's name, so be it. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.